coming live. All right, we are coming live from FDIC, and we are going to be talking today about how to change the game on the Fireground. I'd like to say hi to our Facebook Live team out there and to everybody here at FDIC. We have a very exciting panel that are going to talk about how they've actually changed the game on the Fireground. And I'm going to start it off with a little introduction to our exciting panel today with Matt Ard.
Thanks, Milla. My name is Matt Ard. I'm the Chief of Training at St. George Fire Department in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And just proud to be here and talk about the SAM system.
Hey, I'm Scott Jones, captain at Pattonville Fire District out of St. Louis County, Missouri.
Yes.
Wow. We're bringing the thunder in here today, you guys. This is going to be an exciting
all about
panel.
The bass.
My name's Eric McDonald. I'm a captain at the Freeburg Fire Department. We are located about 30 minutes east of St. Louis.
I'm Jeff Groh. I'm also a captain at Freeburg.
All right. Well, thanks, team. So we're going to talk a little bit about SAM today. And we're going to talk about, what are some of the changes you've seen so far on your Fireground with SAM? And since you're closest to me, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Right, I'll go ahead and get started. On Fireground operations, SAM does exactly what they say it will do. It will free that operator or the engineer, whoever's running that pump. It'll free that guy up to be able to do other things. And it just automates the whole process, and it really makes it a lot safer. So that you've got more eyes out there on the guys that are out there on the Fireground.
All right. And Scott, what have you seen?
Yeah, basically the same thing. I mean, it has freed up a lot of time for the engineers to operate on the Fireground and be a little more efficient for us.
Okay. So when you think about efficiency, how does it make it more efficient?
Well, it takes a lot of the thinking out of actually worrying about whether you're pumping right or not. For the engineers, they're able to go over there and set the truck up and get it going, and then they're freeing themselves up to do other operations to help out guys on the Fireground, and it makes things run a lot more smoothly, where as a captain, I'm not worrying about somebody getting me this or that. I already have an engineer that's thinking that way to get this stuff for us, because he knows his truck's operating the way it should be, and all you gotta do is just kind of take a look back and forth every once in a while and make sure everything's good.
So in critical moments, they're able to really focus on other things that are important instead of the pump operation.
Right, absolutely.
All right. And Eric and Jeff, what have you seen?
Well, they talked a lot about the easiest part about using SAM, but for us, being a rural department, we do a lot of drafting, and that was our biggest concern whenever it came to buying the SAM system is, will this draft? Because most of our fires are rural, and the worst thing you can hear at 3 a.m. is that primer just wailing and you're not getting any sort of draft. So we talked to SAM a lot, and they said that they can do it, and they sure did. I mean, we haven't had any issues when it comes to drafting, and we're just that volunteer department with not that much fire experience. We do more training than we do, running fires. So.
Yeah, so really in that drafting piece of it.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge
they
difference.
did exactly what they said they could do.
Makes things a lot simpler.
Well, and then, when you think about what the biggest benefit is about having SAM as part of the team, what is that biggest benefit? Is there part of the crew? I know you said freeing up, but just knowing that you have SAM on the truck, what's that benefit you see?
Just what you said. It's another team member. That's somebody. It's another element of the Fireground that is less that, like Scott, it's less things that the operator has to think about. Because SAM's taking care of a lot of that, and it's just that. It's another team member there on the Fireground.
So it sounds like SAM has just been integrated. As you think of it, SAM is somebody else that's able to help you and really rely on. Okay, great. Scott?
Yeah, just like that. When we're training new guys on these with SAM and everything, one of the things I kind of tell them is, SAM is the engineer. You're no longer the engineer. SAM's the engineer. You're kind of like its helper or its employee. So SAM needs you to swipe right, you swipe it. SAM does the work. So you got to think of it as a whole separate person almost doing that work. And again, back to it, with having that, it's freeing up a lot more time for these guys to go and do other things.
Yeah.
And we're very benefited in the area we're at with mutual aid and having 4-man trucks and things, as opposed to these guys probably with the volunteer departments. They don't have that up. They don't have a lot of manpower. So freeing up a guy to do something is probably a huge benefit there for them.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, Eric and Jeff, is that what you guys have found? I mean, with the smaller and manpower, have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think it reduces the chance of problems and makes it simpler, less likely to mess up. You know, the pump operator just makes it easier.
Yeah, I mean, just recently we went through. We have 7 pre-connected lines on our truck. You know, we have 3. Actually, we have 6. I'm sorry. We have 3 inch and 3/4. We got 2 2.5s and a booster line, and we just went through it with a flow meter, and we did all the testing and have everything set, so we know exactly what we have to do it with Sam. You know, we know the discharge pressure. We have 4. All you have to do is just slide and drop. I mean, just the ease of access is completely there. And, you know, especially like you said, with us being a volunteer department, you might just have during the day 2 guys.
Yeah.
You know, so just being able to drag and drop, or even with the drafting part, we just have a button on the back you press, and Sam does the whole rest of it.
So when you only have 2 guys, I mean, having somebody or something that's going to help automate processes makes a huge difference to keep it safer.
Exactly, because you don't know what the engineer is going to be doing. He might be pulling your hose line for you or whatever. So, yeah, just being able to trust the system and drag and drop, and then you can go.
So, Scott, I have a question for you. You brought it up. You said that with mutual aid departments coming in, how are y'all dealing with that as far as training? Are y'all doing mutual training with those guys?
Yeah, we do a lot of training together. We have groups, multiple departments get together and do different trainings, and we were the first ones to have the SAM, obviously, and raise questions through guys in training, and it just opened up the door for them to learn and train. And what they would do is they'd come over and look at it, and we'd show them how it works. And but it hasn't affected anything with the operations with Sam at all with these guys. And if anything, it's actually opened up the door for more departments to look into getting that. In fact, a couple next door to us have actually moved on and bought Sam for their.
I guess that's the big question was,
Yeah.
Did it help that?
It helped. It did help that with the one right next door neighboring department. They've got Sam on both of their trucks now.
Oh, wow. So once they can see the benefit, it keeps going.
Right.
Well, and one thing that happens is, you know, Sam does cost a little bit more than a traditional pumper. You know, how did your department decide it was important to spend that extra money on Sam? And Scott, I'll go ahead and start with you again.
Okay. So at first, you know, we looked at Sam, and we were designing the first of our fleet to be replaced, and so we were looking into it, and there was a heavy push with our committee to kind of go and look into Sam and getting it, and we went ahead and made the recommendation to our board and everybody to go with it. But we also had to go back to our crews and get those guys on board, and there was some guys back and forth didn't want to spend the money. They know it's a high expense, and it's something that in all aspects of design and apparatus that you look at, no matter pump to manufacturers. So we had to go back and forth, and we decided let's move forward and go with this. And we budgeted it. We put it on this truck, and then within the next year to 2 after that, the next truck we were designing, it's like, are we doing it? We ran into the same kind of thing, talking budgeting back and forth, and it kind of discussion moved from more budgeting to do we want to go backwards?
Yeah.
You know, we went ahead and we've got this, and guys are happy with it. We really like it. Why do we want to go backwards from there? So we moved forward, and from there on,
So it's
on all our
it's
trucks
once
now.
you get through that initial
Yeah.
piece of it,
Yeah, it's
you realize you're moving forward.
right. It's a cost factor that can sting a little bit, but I mean, let's face it, trucks are $1 million these days.
Yeah.
So it's a very small fraction of that million that you're doing, and if you look at the benefits and rewards of it, I think it pays for itself.
And Eric and Jeff, I mean, you have a smaller department. How was it to, you know, be able to decide to spend that make that extra spend to buy Sam?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we really didn't have that big of a pushback. I mean, almost everyone who is on our fire department has to go through the FAE part of, you know, fire apparatus engineering. So everybody already knew kind of how pumping worked and the difference that Sam really makes. So that was, pretty easy to get their vote on it. We also have all electronic valves on our truck we had before Sam. So most of the cost in Sam's system is your electric valves already. So we had that. So that really wasn't that big of an issue. And then also we're located right next to the city of St. Louis, who was one of the first Sam system trucks, I guess. And I mean, they had it for 3 or 4 years before we even, thought about getting Sam. So we knew how durable it really was. I mean, if they could not break it, hopefully we wouldn't be able to break it either, being a smaller fire department. Then also your guys' warranty on your stuff, how it like doubles the warranty if you get the SAM system on all your different valves. It just doubles the warranty.
So at the end of the day, it makes sense because you've got the warranty, you've got the safety, so you can see the ROI. Now, Chief Ard, a lot of times what you hear when someone wants to get SAM and spend the extra money, you get some pushback. So I'm curious, in your department, did you have anybody who pushed back when they were thinking about getting SAM?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be honest with you. Whenever the fire chief saw the SAM system for the first time at a show just like this, he went and he said, "I want all our trucks to have this system on it." He came back and we talked about it and we looked into it. We did a little research, and being the training chief, I had some apprehension. You
were the one, huh?
I was the guy. I was that guy. I was the one that said, hey, let's not get all the trucks. Let's just get maybe 1 or 2, and we'll try it out. And I thought from a training standpoint, it was going to be just a total nightmare, just a train wreck. And coming from having 30 plus years in the fire service, coming from only using trucks with handles and levers and knobs and gauges and everything else on it, I thought that it was going to be, how could I ever teach the concept?
Yeah.
The concept of how the pump works. I mean, because, people that are in the training industry, that you use those valves and you do different things with it to teach the concepts. But I was that guy. When we had our first demo, Jason brought the truck out. We looked at it. I was like, maybe this is not going to be so bad. And then it transpired from there. We learned it. It got better and better and better and easier to understand. And then it finally clicked. And, to kind of go back to the question before, with the efficiency and the safety, our chief saw that. And the funding part of it was not an issue because it was going to make it much more efficient, safer for the fire on the Fireground, and firefighter safety and efficiency was the 2 big things that he was looking for. And it does that. It really does. It does all of that.
So when you think back, and you were the one giving all this pushback, right? You're the one that says, no. Are you happy you did? And how many trucks do you have now?
I'm happy. I was happy. I was skeptical about it because it made me want to learn more.
Yeah.
And because it was going to happen. When the fire chief said it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And so it's either you get on board or get gone. And so I got on board, and I'm very glad we got them now because it's revolutionary. It's state of the art. Our department as a whole in our area, and I would say in our region, we're very state of the art, cutting edge. We try to stay on top of everything as far as technology goes. And I know you got another question about that, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to the journey.
And how many trucks do you have now?
We have 12.
12 trucks.
We just replaced our whole fleet, and every truck we've got 8 pumps, 2 squads, and 2 quints. Yeah. And they all have the SAM on it, and they all work flawlessly.
That's good to hear. Well, and I guess, we talked on this. Some of the hesitation is because of SAM is due to the electronic controls, right? So, Scott, going over to electronic controls, I know you guys had it half and half. What was any hesitation, and how'd you get over that?
Yeah, right, correct. We had a truck that already had electronic valves on there, and the other ones were manual. So there wasn't a lot of hesitation on switching. most of our drivers were pretty familiar with operating it. But we did get a little bit, maybe some blowback, or some of the older guys that would rather go back to the old. I'd like to feel what I'm pumping.
Yeah.
I want to touch. I don't want to be a button pusher. I want to be, control this. So ran into a little bit of that in discussion with it, and we were just more or less on our committees, kind of make it where everything's the same. We were talking about, we're either going to go all manual on all from the fleet out replacing it, or we're gonna go to the electrical. And with the adaption bringing Sam in, there's no choice. We went that way. So from here on out, that's the way it is, and it's just a matter of whether you're pushing a button or you're swiping something now. So it's pretty easy. It's not a lot of problems with it with our guys.
And Chief Ard, you guys had a manual system. You guys were all manual, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we went from being all manual valves with linkages and so on and so forth to a complete transformation of our complete fleet to go to the SAM. It was in the beginning, before he saw SAM, one of the things he was going to do was we were looking at a different system with electronic valves. To me, it's basically the same thing, other than instead of having to push a button, you swipe it with your finger.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, I told you I was going to do this, but and I tell people all the time, if you can run this, and everybody has one of these, if you look in your pocket right now, I guarantee you probably got one that looks similar to this. If you can run this, you can run that pump, no doubt.
And Eric and Jeff, did you guys have any hesitation with the technology? I think you guys were on electric.
No, I mean, we didn't just go out and buy SAM overnight, that's for sure. I mean, we came to FDIC at least 3 years before we even thought about buying SAM. I mean, we just bought, twin trucks with, a SAM system on it, and we weren't going to buy one truck with it and one truck without it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to fork out if you weren't very comfortable and familiar with it. So, I mean, we came out here and we ran it out back there, and everybody was pretty comfortable with it. They actually came to our firehouse and we did a demo too. So,
wow. Well, and so that's a good question. You hear about, okay, well, we're going to electrical, we're doing this new technology. There could be issues. What happens if there's issues? I'd like to just go down the panel. Have you had any issues?
Very few. What few issues we've had maybe have been a programming issue. They're a phone call away. We usually get in touch with an engineer. They correct it. They send us the update. We program it into our update into the truck, and it's fixed. So, but other than a few little sensors here and there, with 12 units out there, we've had very few issues.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, same. Very few issues. Most of our issues were in the beginning, and it was more of a communications issue between these the manufacturers and SAM not understanding it, and then who you were using as mechanics to fix our trucks when they'd come in and they may do their thing and they're not understanding how SAM works, and next thing we know, we're having to have somebody from IDEX come out and update or reprogram something. But it was more or less somebody else was doing in the communication problems versus SAM itself. SAM has been great for us.
Eric and Jeff, anything?
Yeah, we really haven't had any issues to speak of.
Okay.
And there's you got a screen on each side of the truck. So if one was to go out, you still have your backup screen. You can pump from either side of the truck, which is nice because you're always on the side.
You got redundancy built in
Yeah.
there. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, let's go on the topic of recruitment and training. So when we think about SAM and, training somebody, you've had people that have been doing things the same way for 20 years. How was it or longer?
Longer.
How did you get them to switch over, and how hard was it to train them to use SAM?
I'll go first on that one. Just like any technology, the younger generation grasps this so easy. They're used to the touchscreen slide things. The older generation or the older firefighters, the guys that have been there for a little while, they had issues with it because they like to touch it, feel it, smell it, taste it. But once they figure out that it's not there to eat them, and it's not going to, it is very simple to operate, and they usually get on board.
Awesome.
Yeah, same with us. The young kids coming in, they pick it up immediately. our issue, or one of the things when it came to training, was taking the guys that have been pumping apparatus for 20 plus years already.
Yeah.
We almost had to kind of untrain them or let's go back to how they think, because we were running into, here's Sam, this is how it works. And they were like, okay, yeah, I get that. And they're immediately wanting to go, but let's put it in manual. I need to know how to operate this in manual, because if this fails, I need to know what I'm doing. And trying to get them to understand that there's multiple fail safes before that even happens. It's just a backwards thinking for them. And once we got them on board thinking that, and like I said a little bit ago about telling these guys, Sam is your engineer and you are an employee, or you're here to help it. Getting them to realize that, and it just eventually clicks on the older fellas and girls. But it's the young kids that literally come up and have it down within 5 minutes. And just a little quick story. I was training a guy to be a driver. It's his first day, and Jason had brought out another department from the area to look at our truck. They wanted to look at Sam, and Jason had asked, hey, can I borrow him for a minute? So I said, yeah, by all means. So he takes Matt over there with him, and within a few minutes, he's got Matt operating Sam. No problem. And then to go into next, now Matt's showing this department how to operate Sam. These guys are all looking at, they were like in awe that Jason could have him operating this truck that fast and then showing them what they're doing. And so it's, the ease of it is there.
Awesome. Eric,
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely with that. The ease of operation with the SAM system, you think of being an engineer, you got to think back, you get off the truck, where's my tank to pump? That's the first thing you got to do. Where am I going to start recirculating? And it's already doing that. So you don't have to really worry about that. Whenever we got our trucks, we got them on a Sunday night, and we did a big group training on Monday right after work, and everybody was there. We trained on them. We put the truck in service that next night. So, I mean, it's just the ease of access is there. Talking about the older engineers, I guess it was last Friday night, we had a structure fire, and we had a senior engineer who didn't really have much training on the SAM system. I mean, other than just the basics, that one night of training. And I mean, he operated a 3-line fire. He got a hydrant established and all of it on his own, just by swiping a couple buttons, and he was ready to go.
He's moving on it.
The ease of access, I didn't have to be there saying, okay, pull this lever, pull that lever. He just knew exactly what to do, and it's just that easy.
And when you think about it, usually we can go out for 3 days to train staff. I'd love to know, you had your 3-day training, Chief Ard. How did it go for you?
It went really well. We looked at it from a different standpoint. I mean, we had to untrain the train guys, and then we instead of everything coming from the top down, like everything else happens in the fire service, the guys out there on the floor, they get tired of listening to the chief's bark orders and tell them what they need to do and things like that. Well, we took a peer support group or a peer group, and we trained those guys. Jason came out to do a 3-day training with those guys. I took 2 or 3 off of each shift, and they were going to be my trainers. At about lunchtime on day 1, was it, Jason? At about lunchtime, we were done. He was here for 3 days, so we got to kind of just hang out and mill around and go to the different stations and actually work on the trucks that were there. So
training's easy. I mean, it's quick, it's simple, and people can pick it up pretty quickly. It sounds like.
Yeah, super easy. And like I said, if you get the system, they're going to come out and train you on it.
Yeah.
They're not just going to throw you out there and hope you sink or swim. You're going to get the information you need to train.
So, to wrap it up, when we think about this, change is hard, right? It's hard to embrace new technology, to make changes. I'd love to know if you could give our departments out there one piece of advice about change, and what would you tell them? And we'll start with the back with Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. What would you tell them?
I think it's the future. You just have to embrace it. It makes it simpler, and it's easier for new people to learn.
Yeah, really, really moving. It is the future, right? It's like if you didn't use a cell phone.
Right.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, kind of touching back on what Jeff said, don't be scared to change. I mean, when it comes to, like, say, the SAM system, every fire department either has an electronic valve or the SAM system. So, I mean, it's like he said, it's the future. Just don't be scared to go out there and go pump today, or,
Don't have to follow the status quo of how it's always been done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Scott?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to echo this, but you can't stop change. It's coming. No matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about fire trucks or just everyday life. It's there, it's coming. It's more the fear of the change that gets us. But things like this, you got to just step back and embrace it. And, we talk a lot about the generations here and the older engineers versus the younger kids coming in trying to learn this. And the older guys are going to have to embrace the younger and learn from them when it comes to this kind of stuff and technology. And that's what we've kind of been doing with our place. Yep. But yeah, you can't stop it. It's coming. It's here.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chief Ard?
I guess it's my turn.
You're up.
All right. So just to echo what they said, change is something that everybody in this whole conference can say this. There's two things about a firefighter that One is they don't like what's going on right now, and they don't like change. Don't be afraid to change. Don't think that you're going to be the guinea pig out there that's, hey, I'm out here on an island. Because I'm going to tell you what, St. George Fire Department has been that guinea pig. We jumped off the deep end. We changed our whole fleet, our whole process, and it has been fantastic. It's the journey and the ride so far has been great. We haven't had any issues with it. The technology is there. And again, that embrace the technology, because this is the way of the future. You're going to see that more and more and more and more trucks come with the systems like this. The SAM system is definitely cutting edge, innovative technology that has revolutionized the fire industry.
All right. Well, I appreciate this panel being so open and honest and really sharing your experiences with SAM. It's a safer Fireground. It really is. You guys are the game changers on how to make the Fireground safer for your teams. If we can give everybody a round of applause here, and a big thank you. And thank you, Facebook Live. We will see you later from FDIC. Thanks.